Oh, hey, it's Sarah. Funny seeing you here. Now, I'm not going to do the typical YouTube trope of explaining the history of Minecraft just to add 4 minutes of filler to the video. Alright, it's time to grow up. If you're on the internet in 2023 and you don't know what Minecraft is, you have bigger problems. And even if you somehow don't know what Minecraft is, all you really need to know to understand this video is that Minecraft made a lot, and I mean a lot of money. This profit, combined with the seemingly simple design of the game, inspired a completely new genre of blocky survival games. Now, these games came out with various levels of polish. Most were blatant plagiarism, cash grabs which barely functioned, like Keemstar's infamous Fortress Craft, or Survival Craft, or Mine Build Worldcraft Survival, or Cube Life Island Survival. I promise these are all real games. However, some of these games in this new blocky survival genre were truly great and original. I know I'm going to start a war by saying Terraria, but you can't say that Minecraft didn't influence Terraria. I'm sorry, I get they're completely different games, and that's why Terraria is so brilliant, because it took this formula that worked and added onto it and created something completely new and gave us a great experience. However, these games like Terraria that were great were few and far between the steaming piles of shit. It's kind of an accepted thing in gaming at this point. When you see a game, it just has this certain aesthetic where you're like, oh, yeah, this is like a Mine Build Worldcraft Survival kind of thing we got going on. So when I came across Portal Knights initially, my alarm was going off and I was on high alert. But a friend's recommendation and a surprisingly mostly positive array of Steam reviews was enough to convince me to spend the $6 on it. And oh boy, I was glad I did. Portal Knights is a blocky survival game released February of 2016 by Keen's Games, the developers of other classics like GeForce? Evidently, Portal Knights was their first major and self-funded game. And to start, the gameplay is pretty traditional. It shares a gear progression system like Minecraft, however it combines this with RPG elements. There are various classes, weapon types, and corresponding skill trees that provide a surprising depth to the gameplay. They're mostly fairly traditional and generic classes like a mage or a ranger. The process for crafting gear is much closer to a game like Terraria, requiring a lot of hours and advancement into the higher level areas to craft better and better gear. However, getting to these higher level areas to access better gear is where you have to employ the major defining gimmick of Portal Knights, which is traveling through portals to different islands. Each island has 1 or 2 portals for you to discover that branch out to different islands. To use these portals, a certain number of enemies needs to be killed on each new island you come to in order to craft enough portal blocks to allow you to travel to the next island. You can also find these portal blocks around the various islands in chests or occasionally by mining precious materials or sometimes in quests. This system works really well and adds an interesting element to resource gathering and world building as you travel and port through the various islands while gathering the materials to craft your desired items. At least at the beginning of the game, each island is relatively unique with NPCs that offer quests in order to gain XP, items, or gold. Of course, you can also get this gold from mobs and chests, but its major usage comes from the various NPCs that spawn on the islands. You can get the usual lot from NPCs, from vanity items to potion, gear, housing items. Another really unique piece of Portal Knights, and probably my favorite part of the game, are the boss fights. Certain islands will contain keys, and these can be used on other islands with shrines in order to unlock boss fights. These boss fights are necessary to progress and a lot of fun. My biggest grievance with a game like Skyrim or Minecraft is that you can easily defeat the final boss. I mean, all you really need to kill the Ender Dragon if you know what you're doing is a couple snowballs and maybe a stone sword, which you can get 5 minutes into playing the game. Portal Knights boss fights aren't super difficult, but they give you a measurement of how far you've come and really reward you for progressing through the various islands. Now you're probably saying, wait, this sounds like the greatest game of all time, why have I never heard of it? And I'll be the first to admit, this game is far from perfect. Combat is plagued by what I like to call the Skyrim effect. Overall, it lacks depth, and outside of boss fights, it really just turns into swinging and occasionally dodging if they really telegraph an attack. But overall, what really hurts this game is it gets super repetitive pretty quickly. There's around 60 islands, but only really 6 or 7 themes. Islands and mobs get really repetitive after a significant amount of playtime. This bogs down the whole gameplay loop, because after it's your second or third time in the theme of a world, you get bored of it. At that point, exploring for chests or killing the same mob 30 times to get portal stones just becomes a real chore. Quests suffer from a similar issue. Some quests are really fun, but after a while they just turn into, hey, go back 3 islands and craft this piece of gear and bring it to me and I'll give you some gold or XP that you don't really need. This game also has so much potential for base building and farming that in its current state I still used and really enjoyed, but there's still a lot left to be desired in terms of rewarding you for your farming and the actual farming mechanics itself, along with the depth and amount of building options. And that kind of ultimately was my major takeaway from playing Portal Knights, is that it just has so much potential. There were moments when I first started playing where I was completely enthralled, traveling from island to island, crafting gear, completing quests, fighting bosses. that I just got lost in this magical world this game created, only to be painfully dragged back to reality by coming to a clone island filled with boring NPCs and quests where I had to fight the same orc 20 times to unlock a portal that takes me to another clone island. I think if NPCs and quests were given more meat on the bones, and the major change of even at the cost of lowering the amount of islands, making each island's landscape unique while also making the mobs, the NPCs, and the quests available on the island completely unique and interesting. If these changes were made, I think you have a real masterpiece on your hands. And by no means in its current state is Portal Knights a bad game. I had never even really heard of the game. Most of the exposure it got on YouTube were a couple sponsored Let's Play series. Considering I got 10 hours of really fun gameplay out of it, and if I have free time in the future, I definitely will return for more, I think it's definitely a super underrated game. In its current state, it constantly goes on sale for under $10, and if you're looking for a new game to try with a group of friends, I definitely wouldn't hesitate to recommend it. There are also rumors of Keen Games developing a spiritual successor to Portal Knights, so if that's true and they build off the foundation they have laid, I think they might just have a masterpiece waiting in the wings. Hey, that was pretty fun. Make sure to check the links in the description, join my Discord, follow me on Twitter, all the links are down there. Please do it, I promise I'm really funny and no one follows me on Twitter, so no one ever listens to anything I say. Outside of that, I hope you just have a good day.